So.
All right, guys,
The clicker?
I got the clicker.
The clicker's working, all
And
right.
everybody's got food, right? I might not be from Texas, but I'm from the South, so you gotta have the food right at lunchtime. So with that, guys, I know we got a tight window, right, with 15-minute slots here. So first off, I want to thank you all for coming in this room, man. Myself, I've been with Cask for 6 years. All right, so go ahead and roll the next one. So about Cask, real quick. So Devin Corum, I run the East Coast in Canada for us. Been with the company about 6 years. We're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So real quick, who is Cask? Helmet protection is what we do, right? From the sport division to safety, we've been there and done that. Always use the reference of SoFi Stadium a few years back, right, where the Super Bowl was. That stadium, excuse me, was building Cask helmets. When you start looking at some of the Olympic summer trials, right, we dabble heavy in 8 medals won last Summer Olympics. I say all that to say it's not talking, oh, this is what we do. I say it because all the performance, all the components that make a helmet, we've seen it from different avenues, and we tie it into a product right to where your guys are comfortable, right? And if it's comfortable, they're going to be compliant. That's who we are as a company. Well, now. So when Shiloh asked Cass to be a part of this, he sent over a list of questions. Valuing your guys' time, I want to make sure that whenever I leave, I've answered those questions I was sent over. So what we're going to do, we're going to touch the standards. What's the safety ratings these products are covering? Comfort level, how does that hit, right? Lightweight, breathability, lifespan, average wear. I can hit those two at one. Finally, we're going to get into some of the replacement parts, right? Things that are in the field. We all know you guys you work hard, right? What can be replaced on that helmet if needed? And finally, the biggest piece that we see really, question of chin strap. A lot of kickback we get of chin strap. Why chin strap? The best way I can show you why chin strap is show you how it's tested, right? Show you that. Why are the Turners and the Gilbanes, why are they writing specs now that are saying helmet on the head, chin strap buckled, right? So I'm gonna hit the standards there that kind of hit that for you. We fair with that, guys and ladies? We good? Standards. You look at any standard, I challenge you guys to look at the same. You look at your hand protection program, right? Your fall protection program. Raise your hand if you got a fall protection program early in place, right? Those standards are changing now, right? Class 1, Class 2 is coming up. I challenge you to look at your head protection program very similar, as it's evolving as well. I mentioned fall protection a lot because I'm going to hit the standards here piece because you know what? I look at a helmet as an extension of fall protection for you guys. If a guy takes a fall, you want to make sure from the neck up, he's protected, right? I'm going to touch the standards real quick to show you how that can be done. So if you look at, this is us, this is Cask, Super Plasma Zenith X family. Pretty simple, right? Our Super Plasma, as I call it, our legacy product, right? We're going to hit Type 1 and EN 12492. Zenith X family is going to be Type 2 and EN 12492. I reference all those standards because at the end of the day, you guys are asking us about those standards as helmet manufacturers, knowing why. The two things I get asked, side protection and chin strap, right? I'm going to show you later on, right, how they do that. Because at the end of the day, a helmet should provide holistic head protection. Should be tested front, side, rear impact. And that chin strap should be tested to keep that helmet on its head, right? So that is the standards that our product carries. Those are standards as well. I'm not going to put on my lab coat and dive into them right now, but those are standards that across multiple manufacturers you're going to see. Covered the safety ratings. Now we're going to go to comfort level. I mentioned earlier, this is where we pull our stuff from. If you look at that list, you're going to see fall protection in relation to horses. You're going to see integrated eyewear in relation to cycling. Cold weather. You guys might not deal with it as much down here, but cold weather, right to our ski. At the end of the day, as cliche as it can sound, head protection is head protection. I like showing this because raise your hand if you have a daughter that's riding a bike on the weekend, right? Most of the time, nowadays, you're going to have her in a bike helmet, right? You wouldn't put a hard hat on her head and take her to the park and say, hey, baby girl, you're going to ride down the road in a hard hat. Just not going to do it. I challenge you guys, what we look at on the weekend to protect us. Don't you think we should look at that to protect us 70 hours a week when we're out there getting that paycheck? Because it all goes together, guys. From that, you're gonna get a lot of comfort factors. When you look at a helmet for being a helmet, not as a hard hat, which is meant to meet a minimal standard and provide minimal protection, right? To one blow on top of the head. That's what your type 1 hard hat is tested for, and that's it. So when you look at a helmet that's designed to be a helmet, the comfort factors are gonna be lightweight. A lot of guys are looking at helmet, you're gonna see lightweight. You're gonna see a better fit, a lot more movement for them. I challenge you to go out there and see those guys, right? They're all gonna have a system that moves to fit you better, but they're gonna have paddings that can replace it, solutions that fit your eyes, right? So really it is designed more of a modular approach for your guys in the product, right? Neck up protection, right? You're gonna see that visors, you're gonna see the full face visors. All that is designed to make that product more comfortable for the guy when wearing it and fit his needs when he's doing his job. Lifespan of the product. For us, that's 10-year life, 3-year warranty. I get asked a lot of times, service life. It's a 10-year life for that helmet. Now I can go, we've been doing safety in the US roughly about 15 years. I've been with the company 6. So when I look at service life and how that's in play, the industry where we've been in the longest, it's actually arborists, tree guys, right? We can see those helmets go 7 years, right? That's where we can see those go. Now, the big piece, when you get into service life and that, replacement pieces and what can be done there, right? You can replace the paddings on our helmet, you can replace clips, visor stuff, that all adds in. But ultimately, you're looking at a 10-year life on that helmet and a 3-year warranty. 3-year warranty is covered there in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we're based out of. Nice piece on that as well. If I go back here, is with our X2 collection, that's all gonna be made in the US. They're gonna be US made. Cool piece on that with the Zenith X2, you look at the chin strap, that actually comes right outside from where I live in Shelby, North Carolina. So 100% US made on our Zenith X2 collection, something we're proud of there. I say all that to say when you're looking at helmets, these are the 5 things I think you should look at, right? Non-breakaway chin strap. We hit the standards, right? All around head protection via those standards we talked. Accessories that can support your guys doing. Foam liner, right? EPS to absorb that energy when a blow happens, and then comfort. The cool thing about this industry, I'll be upfront with it, is 3 years ago, there really wasn't a lot of options out there that could offer those 5 pillars. Now I'm confident as you look, it's evolved. Some of those pillars are being hit, right? Competition is making everybody be better. But as you look at those, I think that is 5 plans there. As you evaluate your program, make sure they hit those 5 pillars for you and your guys. Placement parts. I mentioned a lot, the paddings come in and out. The visors here, this can pop on and off, right? The adapter that it can be attached to can pop on and off. The lamp clips here can pop on and off, right? I say that because a lot of times people look at your standard hard hat. And if you open the manual of your standard hard hat, it's going to say that you replace it every 5 years. You replace that retention system every year, right? With your helmet, there are replacement pieces, but the retention and chin strap, they're good for the life of the helmet, right? They are good for that life of the helmet. Part of that is they're designed to be part of that into this testing that I'll get into. The last question I was asked, and it's one of the biggest ones, right? We see most of the Type 2 helmets worn with that chip strap due to comfort. Does this negate the protection of this product? Per the standards I'll show you, I would say yes. There's a reason they test it. There's a reason it's on a helmet. There's a reason it's a piece of it. I'm going to touch on it from the ANSI Type 2 view and the EN 12492 view. So you look at the chin strap. It is tested straight down on the Type 2, right? Just to give you guys, you're looking at about 22 pounds pulled down. EN 12492 has 110 pounds, right? But basically it's a straight pull down system. The one piece here, Type 2 only Type 2 is tested if it is sold, already installed at the manufacturer, right? So if that helmet is a add-on piece and it's not, you don't receive that helmet with the chin strap from the manufacturer they're already in, Be sure to ask questions, right? The one thing that you can see there a bit is make sure you look at your manufacturers, right? And ask them those questions as well as, hey, if it's field replaceable, right? Can that be field removable, right? That's something you gotta watch. Because at the end of the day, being there, being with us as long as I have, I've heard stories, and a lot of times, man, this is the piece that can be missed on chin strap. But I go back to the recreational reference, right? It's meant to stay on your head. I look at it through the end 12.92 lens. Why? A little bit more weight here. 110 pounds pull down, retention. That's the one piece. Very similar test, a little bit more weight than what you see in type 2. The other piece that I think is one of the biggest pieces of the chin strap within 12.92 as well. You got the front and dorsal piece of this test. They hook to the back of the helmet, they drop weight, boom. What's that similar to? That's similar to a guy takes a fall. What's gonna happen to that SRL? Boom, it's gonna pop up, right? With that standard there, it's tested to be in place. It goes through that test reference, right? It also does it from the front. But the biggest piece here, when you look at it, the head protection piece cannot come off that head form after that test. It has to stay in place, right? It has to stay in place. And I think that's where overall you look at the impacts that we talked about earlier. You look at the chin strap, you look at 360-degree protection. As you look at it, I know it was a small window of time to talk there, but those are some key points to keep in mind as you guys evaluate those programs, right? As you evaluate those programs, be sure to ask those questions. Because the guys that are talking today, myself, Studson, Milwaukee, Wavecel, we should be able to answer those questions for you guys on our product, right? We should be educated. We should be assets to you and help you in making that change, right? Help you with those questions that you have. Because at the end of the day, I'll say it, if they're in a helmet, I'm happy, right? That's progressive move, and we want to get everybody in a helmet. We actually received an email Friday. We had an arborist guy that fell 35 foot. 35 foot. He didn't email us. His sister did. Gives you goosebumps because his sister said, you know what? I had no idea who your brand was before I walked in the emergency room, and that doctor said, your brother probably wouldn't be walking around if he didn't have that thing on his head. Right? And that's when you go, man, if we can get everybody in a helmet, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So with that, that's all I got, man. I thank y'all for your time. And of course, I know there's a question segment there at the end, so that's all I got. Yeah. I right at 15 minutes?
Actually, I think you're short. You're good. You're good. All right. For that, like I said, we are passing the helmets around, take a look at them, check them out. Next up, I believe we have Stetson.
He left it up there.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Clicker?
This is actually still 2 years old. All right. Look for present.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm glad to have you here and glad to be here to talk about the transition from hard hats to helmets. I'm Ryan Barnes, the founder and CEO of Stetson. This is Austin Dean, our national account manager, and he manages the Western US. You're probably wondering where that name comes from. Stetson comes from my kids, Stella and Hudson. Back in 2019, I worked in the action sports industry my whole career, ski and bike, similar to what Devin was talking about. And I was working for a Swedish company, and a general contractor approached me and said they were making the move to hard hats, or to helmets from hard hats. And did we make one? And I said no. So I went home and started doing a little research. And this is a quote. When I first looked at the construction industry and what was being used for head protection, I was very shocked that there hadn't really been a whole lot of innovation, 100 years. And this technology of a hard hat with a harness system with a bunch of dead air up there protects you from falling objects, but wasn't really designed to protect you in a fall. Our mission is to save lives and reduce severity of accidents in the in the industrial trades by combining the most innovative materials and progressive design in order to deliver the safest, most functional head protection possible. We're currently today, we're above the neck solutions for safety, head, ear, and eye protection, and then accessories for sun and rain protection as well. So I'm just gonna show a super quick video here, kind of sums up why I made the move after 20 years to.
For 100 years, the look of the hard hat
develop
has barely changed. And the technology has not changed as well, and that's the problem.
To be honest with you, it's the most significant change in construction in my experience.
Every job's different. You never know what you're going to be dealt with every day. You try to look as far ahead as you can and expect the unexpected.
We all have a life outside of work, and I want them to be able to go home on the weekends and enjoy it with their family. In order for them to do that, they need to come home safe from work.
You know, there's a cleansing part about going into the river, and not just the river, just being outside.
If somebody is injured, it's a hit, it's personal. It's personal to every person on the job site.
I've seen head injuries, I've witnessed them, and they're expensive and they're devastating to family and friends, and certainly the individual that has to deal with a head injury, and something's got to be done about it.
We've developed the absolute best product with the best materials that we can today.
From the owners all the way down to laborers and apprentice carpenters, we all genuinely care about each other.
This is what keeps me up at night. Fall protection, struck by, trench excavation safety, falls, overhead, crush injuries, trips. Same level falls are pretty bad as well.
It's a huge opportunity to put a lot of people in a safer position in a construction field or wherever they may be.
It's not business, it's personal.
My pride and passion for this project is knowing that we will save lives.
No, I think the Stetson helmet's it's an asset.
And I think that's where the industry is heading. It's a safer product and works better for the guys and ladies out in the field who have to wear them all day.
Stetson helmet provides the best opportunity for the best outcome.
Thanks for watching that. I'm super passionate about head protection and brain injuries. I hit a tree when I was 16 ski racing and crushed the whole side of my face, and it was a life-threatening injury. Luckily, I recovered pretty quickly, but I've been very passionate about it. And then went to work for Kask, which is a Swedish company, for 5.5 years selling head protection in snow sports and cycling. So saw an opportunity to elevate the game in this industry, and hopefully, I know we will save lives, right? Austin has a.
Yeah, so we got a brand ambassador, and his name's Will Goldsmith. And, you know, there's all this talk about the different things that we can do and helmets can do, but real world examples are what we're all about, right? And how can we try to make things better? One of the things that we learned really early on was I was actually on a ski lift, and I was talking and telling the story of what we're doing. This was in the early days. I'm not even sure if we were incorporated yet. And Will Goldsmith was going up the chairlift with me, and he was on a job site about 10 years ago. And he's told me this story now 4 times in person, and I'm not a very emotional guy, and it's brought me down every single time. So he's on a job site. He's just bringing in a load of equipment from a crane, guiding it on the ground, backing up, and trips over a Jersey barrier. Well, as we talked a lot about so far from what Devin said, chin straps are a pretty big deal, right? And what's the first thing that happens when you hit that hinge point? Your hard hat goes flying off. Now, the average traumatic brain injury happens from 6 feet or less. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what trade you are, right? We're all susceptible when we're on the job site. So how can we be the most protected? Fortunately, Will was not. Will trips, goes back, hits the back of his head, lights out, just like that, right? 8 years of his life go by. And now this is where it gets emotional. He just about lost everything in the process, right? Family, dog, kids, the whole nine, not to mention his job. Now, 8 years later, he's made a comeback and he's general manager of one of the coolest, most up and coming ski areas, private ski areas that you're ever gonna see in the entire world, right? And the job that he's doing from the actual construction of building out this resort to the resort itself is insane. But his story is deeply emotional. I said, well, why are you doing this? Why are you telling us all this? Why are you much less putting this on camera for all to see? Because we have a video where he'll discuss this, but it's 5 minutes and it eats into this time a little bit. And he said, Austin, if I can just change the mind of one person on a job site to wear a chin strapped helmet, it doesn't matter what helmet, but to wear a chin strapped helmet and avoid what I went through, it is worth it to me. And it's the most, I mean, I think it's kind of harrowing to talk about, right? Because it is deeply emotional. But what he wants to do is try to be a change for this industry. And so he's come along with us to try to go about that and really be a part of our mission to make this industry safer at the end of the day, because that's what it's all about.
So quickly, just to talk about our helmet, is when we sought out to design the helmet, we wanted to bring a little bit of heritage from the hard hat, some brim technology. We're from the Northwest where it rains a lot, so we have a drip edge on the back. A lot of what was currently in the market didn't have much brim. And some of this inspiration here comes from a local company in Portland, Benchmade Knives. This is similar to one of their knife handles. So we knew, you know, this industry was, you know, into their toys, their F-150s and their bikes and camping and fishing. And what we wanted to do was to be able to really, you know, get people home safe so they can enjoy the things that they love, right? We don't work just to work, right? We work so we can have some life enjoyment. So that was the first thing. Yeah, is there something I'm supposed to point at? There we go. We wanted to focus.
Somebody.
Okay.
It's the Cask guys back there. Hey, you do have your phone in your hand.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going while you pop that up. The second thing is we wanted to focus on fit, function, comfort, breathability, right? There is a big difference from a hard hat to a helmet. I mean, a hard hat, you got a couple of, you got the harness system, you got a couple straps, right? You don't have, you know, foam and other technologies that are gonna, protect your head. And so that makes it warmer. So how can you make a helmet with some, airflow? And that's what we get with this material here, chloride. And then lastly,
So
Sharing it here, but.
Koroyd was founded through aerospace, and it's plastic welded tubes that crumple upon impact. They actually go through 3 different rounds of heat to get down to this actual layer over here. It's a pretty amazing technology. It's all well together. While on the surface, it's a very, very impact absorbing technology. It can perform up to 65% more effectively depending on the impact than just standard foam alone. However, it's 95% made out of air. So when you're dealing with hotter markets, when you're dealing with hot environments, this is a period of, or a technology that will allow for some breathability at the same exact time, right? So we're super proud of it. And I can tell you that it has a life-saving impact just in and of itself. I have a good buddy that was mountain biking with the same technology in his head, and hit a tree, and his cord crumpled about that much and it saved his life, right? So it's some pretty amazing stuff that does a heck of a lot as a value add at the end of the day.
we integrated into 4 areas in the helmet, 4 critical areas. And then it creates a place for the hot air to exhaust right out through the vents. Of course, you don't have that luxury in the Class E non-vented version, but it still allows airflow to move throughout the EPS and get out the shell. Quick little, are you able to just move it along if I just, it's not working.
Not working on it.
There we go. So Austin already pretty much talked about the energy absorption of it. I'm just gonna Secondarily, I knew from my background, because I worked for POC. POC was the first company in the world to put MIPS in a helmet, so I was very familiar with rotational forces. MIPS stands for multi-directional impact protection system. We integrated Shield X Brain Shield, so it's a silicone pad system that allows for a slip plane or some shearing between your head and the helmet. So most impacts are not linear in the lab, most impacts are from some type of angle, right? And that angled twisting force, if you can reduce that by even 1%, it's gonna help slow down the brain when that hit happens.
And whether you're dealing with ONSI type 1 or ONSI type 2, you're not dealing with an actual rotational force, right? And so on the job site, you're getting things that are coming from all different angles. So what this is able to do is create that slip plane for your head inside the helmet, right? And so how do you take that oblique impact? The helmet can actually absorb part of that actual, trauma, that force right then and there.
It's kind of that real world, how things are tested in the lab is not necessarily how accidents happen in the field. I won't go into all those bullets, kind of covered that. And the last thing that we wanted to put in the helmet was an NFC chip that could store your emergency medical profile. So this is embedded between the shell and the liner back here.
You can see it right here.
And every helmet comes with a hang tag with a QR code, and it's up to the user, but a lot of the companies we're working with, they roll out helmets. It's like this, right? It's a big deal. They make a big deal of it. Look, we're gonna spend $140 on you because we care versus the $20 hard hat we've been giving you for the last 100 years. And they leave it up. They highly encourage the use of it, but they leave it up to the user. But you set up a profile, emergency contacts, blood type, diabetic, allergies, anything that would be critical for first responders to be able to access. The first safety director I ever interviewed before we started designing the helmet showed me his hard hat, and in the top was a note card taped in the top, right, with his emergency contact info. Well, the last thing you want to do if somebody's injured is remove their hard hat to find out who they are. And we've been on a lot of big profile jobs where there's 20 to 30 subs, right? Nobody knows who all these people are, right? So a guy falls or a guy gets injured, there's a good likelihood that the first people on the scene are not gonna know how to contact his wife
Or
or.
speak the same language even.
So you upload or you build out your profile, and then you can scan it and store it in the chip. Any Android or iOS device can scan the chip. And assuming they don't have the app, it'll just send them a text with that information. If they did have the app, then it would pop up their profile in that format.
And this information's up to the user, right? It's not like your social security number's on there. It's your height, weight, your blood type. Are you a diabetic? Things like that. Things that you need people to know. The value add, again, this isn't something that is needed to use a helmet. It's just something that's there that has an opportunity to be able to provide more information in that worst case scenario.
And as Devin alluded to, most of these helmets have a fleet of accessories, which is really, I've found over the last couple of years, is what people love once they make the transition, once they get used to the chin strap, once they get used to the fact that it looks a little different. They love that there's accessories, visors that are right there, that you're not gonna lose, ear protection, sunshades, you name it, lights. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. My name is Daniel. This is Miguel with Milwaukee. I'm a regional safety specialist. He's one of our local account managers, kind of helps with the AGC. Devin said something earlier that with Cask that reminded me of something. Comfort equals compliance. And it couldn't be more true than that statement there. If they are comfortable, they will wear it. If they will wear it, they will be safer. Because if they're not comfortable, it leads to frustration. Frustration leads to injury, right? So that's where we like to look at ourselves and say, why did Milwaukee get into safety? Why are we looking at helmets with Milwaukee? Y'all are a power tool company. Don't quite understand it. Well, we like to look at ourselves as a health and safety company. Ever since 2007, when we came out with the cordless tool, we looked at slips, trips, and falls. And then we just kept on going from there. But we wanted to put ourselves in a unique situation to put ourselves into of controls. And look at that. Is that me or you?
Gotta mute all the,
Is it because I'm too close to that?
no, I just got the people that's on the call.
Okay. So we look at higher controls with elimination, engineering controls, and all the way down to one of the least lines of defense, which is PPE. But how do we get ourselves into that? And how do we look at ourselves as one of those companies that say, we want to invest in you from the ground up? Everything that you're doing at work, everything that you're wearing to go to work, we want to protect you day in and day out. Ultimately, the end goal and the end game is, so what we've heard and what they've said is, go home and be with your loved ones. Nothing more important than that. We've seen injuries, small injuries that can lead to death. And we've seen big injuries, which can lead to just devaluing the rest of the employees, saying, I am on an unsafe job site. I do not want to be here. And that's where you need to look into that. So we look at that as being innovative for the trades, where we look at everything from engineering controls, the smart technology that we put in our tools, all goes down into the innovation that we're putting into our PPE and even our helmets. Click over to the next slide. So, made in the US, that's a big thing, right? What does that actually mean? Well, being made in the United States means one thing, quicker to you. So once we manufacture, we can get it quicker in your hands. But also it means we have local people here that look at all the research and development. New product development team that actually stays in-house in the United States. So once these things come off the molding machine, before they go to ANSI and get their testing, we do our own in-house lab testing to get it third-party tested and say, hey, do we actually meet the standards or go above and beyond what we want to do? So that's why we decided to bring things into the United States, to bring it quicker to you, but also to give the team a big old powerful impact so we can get out to the market. It's not clicking over. All right, temperature, heat mitigation, heat acclimation. That's the biggest thing that we're talking about with airflow, right? Y'all mentioned that earlier about what we can do to take the heat away from somebody. So our temperature performance test actually shows, compared to some competition, that with our vented helmets, it'll actually heat up and dissipate quicker and faster. To get heat away from the head, especially in places like Texas, that's a big thing. What we want to do is keep people cool. I don't know how many times I've been out to a site before and they say, hey, what cooling technology y'all coming out with besides electrolytes, besides tents, towels, things of that sort. And you've heard that from all the manufacturers here today. Everything that we mentioned is cooling, right? Because helmets aren't there with all that high density foam and all the new technologies. It's going to get hot under there. And how do we take that heat away? And how do we do the testing to show you that we've actually done that? That's the big thing. Miguel, you want to talk about bolts real quick?
Yeah, let's go over a bolt head protection line. I'm gonna pass this guys around for you guys to see firsthand. So before helmets started becoming a trend in the industry, we partnered with our research team to understand what frustrations our users were facing in the field with their head protection. We found that aside from the head protection itself, accessories were a big thing. They are a big deal. And we are an innovation company, right? And so we understood that there was a lack of innovation within this space from a versatility standpoint and compatibility, right? Watching users struggle attaching multiple attachments to their headgear and seeing the frustrations that they faced with the complexity of the attachment systems that are currently out there in the market inspired us to really create our own bolt head protection accessory line. From, what's that helmet? Yep. So from visors, right? From visors to headlamps, to earmuffs, ear protections, to sunshades, for cooling. We believe that we are the most compatible, cross-compatible, and versatile accessory line for our hard hats and helmets. And being able to have all these accessories work simultaneously and function together as one unit with ease, the key word is ease, you incentivize the user to actually use the helmet, to actually use the accessories that's designed for them to keep them safer. And you're able to incentivize them to be more compliant with these new style helmets on the job site. And so with our accessory line that we have here, we do have all these attachments that you see listed here. We're currently still working on some new attachments as well, just constantly working with our research teams to figure out how we can better our products and our solutions, even if they're not even in existence today, so that workers out in the field are actually wanting to use these new style hard hats and helmets.
Well, I was with a customer the other day and they said they were doing some grinding at a grinding station. They said, well, we put on one hard hat to do grinding because it has the shield. Then the guy takes off that hard hat and he actually gets his other one. And so when he goes back to work, so he's constantly going from one to the other. If something happens to that grinding hard hat, they have to replace it. So technically everyone has two. Now you're talking about cost, you're talking about money. Yes, helmets are gonna be a little bit more expensive compared to your traditional hard hats. Here's the thing about it. It's better than a traumatic brain injury. Better than wasting the money on that and having to deal with that. Or one or two. I mean, you think about that in the long run, that adds up to a lot. We all have an obligation as safety professionals to take care of our heroes. We put steel toes on them. We didn't wear steel toes a long time ago. We didn't even wear gloves a long time ago or safety glasses. When you think about the innovation that we've done and these other companies have done as well, the hard hat was only mandated back when they built the Hoover Dam. You haven't seen much change. Guys, this is the change. This is where we're moving to. Whether you like it or not, it's how you implement the change and how you get people used to that change, but also happy with it and show them the results of what it's doing and saving lives. I wouldn't say anything's more important than someone telling me, hey, I'm going to save your life. Here, let me give you a helmet and I'm going to show you how it's going to save your life if something happens and what it's going to do to protect you. I'd be happy as hell. But I know our guys out in the field are a little bit different when we have to communicate to them. But if we can help with that message in some way, form, or fact, to be able to do that, have us help you, bring us out. We'll be more than happy to talk to them, show them some statistics, not really to scare them, but to show them the reasons why. Now, when it comes down to it, there's a lot that Milwaukee has to offer. Miguel, can you go into some of the other details about what we're?
Yeah, if you can hit the next slide, or back to it. Right, we talked about support being a big one, right? We have over 29 managers, account managers here in Texas alone. All right, these are dedicated managers to work with all the GCs, electrical, mechanical, plumbing contractors, drywallers, you name it. We have a full force of teams out here in the Texas market to help and educate your safety managers, professionals out on the job site or in their office. We are readily available to you guys. Whether you guys want to talk more about type 2 helmets, or if you just want us on your job site to help educate and promote the safety message, right? We do anything from silica training, slip, trips, and falls, power tool 101 training, the full 9 yards, right? We are here as safety professionals to assist you guys on the job site to drive that safety message here together. So however we can partner that way, we're happy to do it.
When you all are looking at the helmets and passing them around, we're going to show you a test here in just a little bit to show you the difference between a hard hat and the materials that are made out of a hard hat and actually what our helmet is. Now, everything on that helmet, besides the high density foam that's in there, everything's replaceable. So the sweat liners, the chin straps, they can all be taken out and replaced. What this means, we know turnover's high. We understand that. And those helmets, they are expensive compared to a normal traditional hard hat. If a liner has to be replaced, if the guys are wearing too much hair gel out on the site and it gets all crummy, or you get a case of head lice, if something goes around, there's a way to just pull those out on Velcro and pop them back in. And you can replace your chin strap every year per our recommendations. You can switch out your liners, everything like that if they get nasty and dirty. And then you just clean the normal helmet with some Dawn soap and some warm water, something like that. So go back one slide. I want to show them the customization. So we do our own logoing for our helmets in Waconago, Wisconsin, where we actually manufacture these. We have a open to the public digital rendering that you can go on right now and look at that 3D view on our website, add a logo to it, and then ask one of your distributors to order it. Takes about 2-3 weeks to come in because we do our own screen printing, and you can logo on 4 sides of the helmet. We don't charge per color location. It's just put logos on it, whatever your company recommends. And if we want to work with your company for brand standards, we can do the same thing as well. But we've invested a lot of money just looking into how we can design this so you can get a real view of what your helmet or hard hat or safety vest can look like before you actually order. So it's just something extra that we're doing for you to make things easier, because we know sometimes it can be a little difficult, especially if you're ordering something brand new. So that's where it goes from. We're gonna do a test real quick before we move on to our to Wavecel. And we're gonna show you the difference between a normal hard hat and ours. Our helmets are made with a Lexan material. Y'all know anything about Lexan? Kind of in bulletproof glass. Not to say that's the hardest thing on the planet. It's just a durable material. And what we wanted to do was rate this for construction. Not rock climbing, not anything else like that. It's just a construction helmet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise this. This is a 25-pound steel pylon, and we're just gonna smash it on this helmet, just our hard hat, to show you the difference. Go ahead. Now, we're gonna put a helmet under here just so you can see the difference and the level of protection, and then we'll pass that around so y'all can see it. Ready? The tube up. There you go.
You got a few folks that want to film this.
You guys saw us ready.
Okay, ready? Now, in realistic form, this would crush someone's spine. Not saying that. This is not an ANSI test whatsoever. This is the type of durability, besides the high density foam, besides the new technologies other brands are putting into their helmets to protect that head, to give it its cushion. But it's giving you the durability of showing, hey, this is meant for the job site. These guys can have some level protection on their head, and it is a better level of protection than a normal traditional hard hat. So it kind of gives you that idea.
What's that weigh?
Huh?
What's that weigh?
25 pounds, I think. The whole setup is actually a lot heavier, but yeah, that's a 5-pound pile.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate you guys' time. We know that we'll have questions here towards the end. Please hold them until we get done with the next presentation, and then we'll go from there. But I appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you, guys.
Perfect. So thank you so much for your patience, everyone. I will go quickly through those slides and you can ask me questions afterwards. There were already wonderful presentations, a lot for you to learn. I keep it to a different theme here. I call it myth versus facts. There are certain opinions we have, but then facts are born by numbers. This is a famous quote. The Beatles have no future in show business. That was a true quote from a Decca executive. So sometimes our opinions misguide us, and it's really numbers that we need. So I'm trained as a researcher all my life. I still am the founder and director of an independent research lab. I'm also part owner of Wavecel. But really what I want to show you is today some data to answer some of common questions. So first I'll make a little test with every one of you. You see here an upside down head. Surrogate mounted on a hybrid 3 test dummy neck, and it has 2 raw egg yolks. A summer student had to put those egg yolks in there. They're suspended in a gel that has similar density than brain tissue. It was very tough to do. You will see this crashing at 9 miles an hour down on a hard anvil. And my question to you is, will these egg yolks upon impact vigorously move up and down? Will they explode? Or will they not move at all? So myth versus fact. So how many of you guys would think they move vigorously up and down? Alex, what's the count there?
Up and down, we got
Up and down, vigorously up and down, versus explode or versus not move at all.
75% moving up and down.
Okay, how many go, they just break, explode?
1%.
How many say they don't move at all?
0%.
0%. Okay, well, so we all have our opinions based on a lot of experience, but in research, we look at data, and now you see a slow motion movie, it will look very soft and gentle, but it's a hard impact. And they don't move at all. There's a little bit of bending in the neck that causes them to shake very slightly. But in a straight impact in a hydraulic system, nothing can compress. Those eggs or your brain is completely protected. However, in an oblique impact, see what happens? Those eggs vigorously shake back and forth and break. That's how a concussion or brain injury happens. And that's one of those myths that the brain just bounces in your skull. So a skull is the hard surrounding. Originally, hard helmets were made to protect your skull from breaking. But the brain is the opposite. Brain is a soft tissue. And in 90% of brain injuries, you don't have any skull fracture. So we talk about two completely different things. What's shocking to me is that helmets are still tested today only in straight impacts. And these impacts were designed for skull fractures. They have nothing to do with the brain. Of course, we know the cost of brain injury, it's high, but I think the social economic burden or the personal burden for people of these life-altering events is the real cost of it that we want to prevent. Just an interesting statistic, the majority of brain injuries comes from simple slips, trips, and falls, work-related ones. They're not from falling from a second, third story or from something dropping in your head. The majority is these simple events. Now, this is a textbook that literally shows you how the brain flies to the front of your skull, recoils to the back, and also it's in every textbook. These textbooks are wrong because brain can only fly inside your skull if your skull will be filled with air. And there's no insult. None of our heads are filled with air. There's not a single cell that has the tiniest air bubble in it. It's completely hydraulic. So you see the same video again. Now we have more like a brain looking model. And in a straight impact, you see this red cross. There is no distortion whatsoever because that straight impact doesn't cause any brain injury. And if you get any type 1, type 2, whatever approved on your helmet, they only test it straight up. And the real injury comes when you have any rotational force. See how that brain get twisted back and forth? And that's like in a top-loading washing machine that moves back and forth. That's the agitation that cleans your laundry, and you don't want to have your brain cleaned. So the rotation is the problem. This is a very interesting video. Again, you watch this on TV and you see that boxer drop and be knocked out cold. But if you do slow motion, it becomes research data because watch his teeth move over 2 inches, but the lips stay where they were. It's incredible. Watch it one more time. The lips move over, the teeth, and the teeth are connected to the skull. So the skull is rotating like your top-loading washing drum, and the brain inside is getting teared apart. It's awful what happens to his brain, and the brain cannot be fixed. Now, we never came up with that. This is Dr. King, Wayne State University, 1995. If rotational acceleration is the cause of brain injury, how does the helmet protect the brain? There's this decade-old disconnect between the research community that always knew it's the rotation and helmet testing and test standards that just test straight. It's not that because they don't understand, it's like it's much harder and more sophisticated to simulate those more realistic impacts that measure rotational acceleration, but it can readily be done. But the question is, can we make a helmet that protects those egg yolks? We started on this research in 2005. I had funding from the National Institute of Health, and it took us on a long journey to come up with something that would not break those egg yolks. And you see it here in a 1-minute movie.
This model shows how important rotation of the head is in brain injury. To demonstrate this, we place 2 egg yolks inside a head model. When we shake the model, the eggs slosh back and forth. Next, we fill the model to the top with water and seal the system, simulating the brain enclosed in the skull. In this system, the brain and its surrounding fluid act as one when exposed to an external force. Notice how the eggs no longer move back and forth in this sealed system, no matter how hard we shake them in a linear fashion, even in a hard hit exceeding 100 Gs. Most impacts are angled, not purely linear. When we angle the impact and allow the model to spin, the yokes shear, simulating concussion or traumatic brain injury. Traditional helmets are not optimized to prevent this type of spin. Even though no helmet can prevent all injuries, Wavecel is engineered to drastically reduce the forces that cause these injuries.
Slip liners, honeycombs, and it really required a whole new cellular matrix. And I show you quickly why that works, what's special about that. It has three functions that all happen in parallel. So as the helmet hits the ground, Wavecel cells can fold over to the side to break rotational force transfer. They can crumple like the crumples in a car, and the whole liner will slide 1 to 2 inches inside the helmet. So it's a system. When you crash your car, you have a crumple zone, you have a seatbelt that holds you back, and you have an airbag that blows up in front of you. All those three are carefully timed with each other. If you leave one out, it doesn't protect you anymore. Same with Wavecel. It's the whole system and the helmet designed around it. So I often get the question, well, but how about if I have a very soft foam helmet? Wouldn't that also help me? Well, on the left side, you see a pool ball dropping on steel and it's not spinning at all. On the right side, you see how the foam grabs the sphere and projects the rotational force into it. So we see the same here. If I take a foam helmet, you see the head rotate dramatically and the brain getting distorted. While with Wavecel, it's a completely different dynamics. You slide through the impact and you get very little distortion of your helmet. And of course, these are our research data. We measure the rotational forces. We can calculate the concussion probability, and there's a big difference. That's why we decided to make our own hardhead Wavecel helmet. These are all peer-reviewed published data that I share with you. So I have two more things that I quickly want to share with you. Another myth that all hardheads perform the same. So 1967 pickup truck, beautiful, but the 220 Ford 150 Raptor is of course much safer. It has airbags, seat belts, ABS, whatnot. But this is a 1967 helmet and a 2020. You can still buy today helmets that have the same technology than 50 years old. And yes, they're very cheap. On the inside, they function exactly the same way, the old-fashioned strap system, which actually is probably the best you can do for a crown impact. Because in a crown impact, you have a very big airspace and the load gets wonderfully distributed, and it's very hard to beat that simple old-fashioned system for a crown impact. The problem is the least amount of impacts happen on the crown. The most happen to the sides, and there the plastic shell will readily hit your head. So very quick explanation. There are type 1 helmets, type 2 helmets. What's the difference? NC type 1, you only test your helmet for crown impacts. That's it. But the majority of impacts from the side, they're assessed in a type 2 helmet. That's where you also test front, side, and rear. What's absolutely amazing, already 1987, Mills and Gilchrist in a very good research paper state that type 1 crown-tested only helmets are practically useless against side, front, and rear impacts, making a redesign necessary. And even today, I can go to Home Depot and buy a type 1 helmet. That is absolutely awful. You can't buy that old F-150 truck anymore. It looks super cool. I want to have it, but it's absolutely not safe. But for your workers, you can go straight to Home Depot and get a cheap helmet. So to make it a type 2 helmet is very simple. All you do is you add an EPS ring in it. And now when you get hit from the side, there's stamping. And what we do here, we did front, side, rear impact tests of type 1 and type 2 hardheads. I show you a drop. It's stunning. This is not a high drop. If I trip and fall on the ground, I fall higher than this test. And that's exactly the ANSI test. And what we found is the following. In black, you see the impact force or linear acceleration of the type 1 hard hats, in gray the type 2. And you see that for front impacts, the type 2 is 2%, 2 times slower. For rear impacts, it's 3.5 times slower. This is not just a number, because these linear accelerations were meant initially to determine when there's a skull crack. And skull fracture you can have between 200 and 300 Gs. So even from such a small height, you can already get close to breaking a skull. But if you had a type 2 helmet, you wouldn't even get close to it whatsoever. They're all under 100 G. So type 2 hard hats provide vastly better protection. So if you have any chance, get rid of type 1, replace them with type 2. Very important. Now, myth number 3, modern safety style helmets are safer than type 2 hard hats. I read lots of articles that say we all should switch to safety helmets. They're safer. And as a researcher, I read through it and think like, show me the number. What test? Why are they safer? And I just can't find the evidence. There's one difference: safety helmets require a chin strap if they want to conform to the European mountain climbing standard. But now you can get some hard hats with chin straps as well. So what is the difference in performance between the two? There are two types of safety helmets. Some retain a traditional strap suspension and have a thin layer of very hardy S foam on top. Others have a very soft foam. If you look closely, while the helmet wraps around far around your head, that impact liner stops quite early and gets thinner and thinner as it comes down where the lateral impacts happen. So what I did, I bought a bunch of different safety helmets from leading manufacturers, and I compared them to 4 hard hats that were type 2 compliant from 4 different manufacturers, just to see, well, how does a modern type 2 hard hat compare to a safety helmet? And this is what we found. All safety helmets shown in blue performed worse than a type 2 hard hat. And it's true, I never, before that study, really looked at are they type 1 or type 2? It turned out that none of those safety helmets were type 2. They were all labeled type 1. And looking at those data, that makes all sense. Now, most recently, companies push very hard to get safety helmets out that are also type 2. So if you buy a helmet, don't get confused what style or how the style is called. Turn them around, look if there's a type 2 written inside, and then you know you have a higher level of protection for the most frequent type of impacts. So in conclusion, and thanks for all your attention span here, your helmet should provide you rotational force absorption to protect your brain. It should give you good linear force absorption for the skull, and that needs to be 360 all around your head, meaning a type 2. Our Wavecel technology was first introduced in bicycle helmets. There are already 2 million of those sold. We received in 2020 Best Innovations Award from Time Magazine for that. Only most recently, we made this technology available in hard hats. Everything is made in the US, Wilsonville, Oregon. That's where they are assembled, where we sew together our chin straps. Injection molding is done 50 miles north from here in Washington. We have a vented and a non-vented E-rated model, all full brim. We claim they're safer, cooler, lower, lighter. They meet both ANSI Type 2 and EN 12492 completely. Safer mainly because of the rotational impact mitigation that's so critical for brain injury. Cooler because Wavecel is 93% porous, lets air go through freely. Lower, we have a fairly low profile in the top because Wavecel is efficient. Lighter, you can never be lighter than a type 1 hard hat. It's just a shell and a strap. But compared to type 2 helmets, Wavecel is considerably light. So with that, thank you so much for your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thanks, Mike. If you could stay online there, I'm going to take control. Okay. I'll have to, Mike, you have to turn this control back over.
Stop sharing.
All right, so we got everybody back in. Got here, we got here, let's open up our chat. See everybody on the side. All right, well, thank you guys all very much for coming out. We did get a little bit behind with our lunch coming in like that, but thank you all for staying with us. If you have any questions, this is a portion where I'd like for you guys to go ahead and bring your questions forward to ask for our presenters that were out there. Some really good information was given to us. I appreciate all of that. Do you have any outstanding questions?
Here, so Derek mentioned the installed chin strap from factory as compared to the optional infield replacement. What was that difference again?
Devin, you said Derek,
I apologize, Devin.
Yes, when you look at type 2, right? So the chin strap on type 2, it has to, for it to be tested, it has to be installed by the manufacturer.
Okay.
The question would go thereafter, chin strap's added in, is replaced in the field, how is that installed? How is that tested? Can't test that piece.
Gotcha.
That's where the field replacement, it is, you know, that's a question on that, right? Because are they gonna replace it? Right? Are they gonna do it correctly? Now, with us, it's not, like, it's not field replaceable, it's integrated into that helmet. Now, I don't have that, but there might be, you know, you guys have something in your paperwork there where it states, hey, this is how you field replace that in need for need.
We do, our chin straps, yeah, chin strap replacement and what you do and, the screws that are attached to it and things like that.
Okay, all right,
Awesome.
thank you.
I know one question I had on the Stetson with the chip that you have that you've installed in it. Great idea. Is it actually QR code you can snap with the picture, or do you have to download an application? or
It's
something?
like NFC, it's called near field communication. It's NFC technology is what you use in tap to pay with your phone or your credit card.
Okay,
And so basically you can go up to that. There's a QR code that comes on a hang tag that will walk you through it in a very dumbed down version on how to go through it step by step. But essentially all it is you create an app, you get the app on your phone, you create your profile, and you upload it to that chip. That chip then houses that profile and you can access it just by touching it, just like you would tap to pay with your phone or your credit card onto it, and we'll see it on iPhone or Apple, it's by the camera. On Android, it's in the middle of phones where the NFC reader is.
okay, so any employee, if you got a down employee that can't communicate, and you can come up and you can scan that,
You can just
collect
let
that
your phone do
information,
it.
or first aid providers could pick up that information with
Correct.
what was loaded into it.
And Apple and Android came out and decided that it was such critical technology from a time and place standpoint that even if you don't have the app downloaded on your phone, you can get sent a text message. It will still recognize that and get you the information right then and there.
Excellent.
And that app does not have a charge to it or anything like that.
Okay.
Follow-up on that, go ahead. How familiar with fire departments, EMS companies, and how familiar with this are they now?
So it's a relatively new technology for coming into the States, but they have thrown the kitchen sink at it, right? And they're going straight from the first responders and down through. Now, this is familiar in other industries like action sports where we come from. But now, as it's starting to make its way into America, into industrial, it's picked up a heck of a lot of steam. And their main focus, because the company is called Twice Me, it's a licensed technology through our helmet. Their main focus is the first responders, is making sure that they have that information right then and there. So they know what they're looking for. That Wi-Fi looking symbol is recognizable.
Got it. Thank you. You had a question?
Yeah, I had a question on the Studson. I noticed a lot of squeaking in the foam or helmet when you bend it at all.
Yeah, I noticed, actually, I think you had it in your hand, a lot of squeaking in that clear helmet. And I don't know what's different. We can't actually produce a ANSI rated helmet in clear. That's just for trade show and for show.
That's just the show.
Okay.
Because of the.
Try the other one too. I think the other one did the same thing. Not
Not like this.
That's a complete, I mean, that's not a, you can see on the inside, it's a sample. of the recent-
Yeah, no, I saw that. I just wondered if the hard hat was gonna be squeaking when we're moving around.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure, I think that, the clear yes is softer than what.
I mean, I'm not as strong as Shiloh, but.
Yeah, you are.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is not giving.
Yeah, I mean, we made the helmet with a, HT 100 ABS from LG Chemical. They're the largest ABS supplier in the world.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the squeezability of it. I was talking about the noise from the actual foam inside it.
I think most of the noise you're getting out of that one is because it's soft, the shell's soft.
Okay.
I know one of the other big questions that, when we first started looking at this, folks were talking about, okay, hey, I've got an employee that comes in brand new, entry level employee. He might work and last 90 days with us before they quit and can go elsewhere. Sometimes you get those helmets back, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're at a loss for that. So looking at return on investment, what you can do, is it feasible or can you remove the guts, basically, or any of the sweat content and reissue that helmet out? Is that allowed?
Yeah, so, my name's Charlie. I'm the Cask rep in Houston, San Antonio, and Austin. So we actually have a couple of companies in Houston that are buying these, and they've got a pretty high turnover rate. What they're doing is when they issue the helmet to the individual, they have them sign a document saying if they leave within a certain amount of time, that they must turn the helmet back in, or they get taken out of their last paycheck. And what they do, they've actually, a lot of the liner inside there, not the foam, but the sweat liners are replaceable. You can pull those out. Our foam is a closed cell foam. You can spray it with an antibacterial spray or whatever and clean all that off. Put the new padding back in and reissue the helmet. And that's what they have had the helmets now for a little over 14, 16 months. They have not lost a helmet yet. They had one guy that he went in there because his paycheck was short. And he's like, what's going on? And they're like, well, you didn't return the helmet. He goes, hold on, got it in my truck. They went out to this truck and brought it back in. So they have not had an issue with that. None of them have disappeared and walked off the job site as far as, and they do have a pretty high turn. It's a drywall company. I mean, some of those guys are maybe there for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Much like Cask, what we have is, from a replacement pad set standpoint, usually that comes in the same order where you can make an order of the replacement pad sets to have those on hand. Again, washability complete, control there, and then with this being tubular, water can go straight through, right? And so washing out the inside is no problem there. So we've seen the same thing, whereas when there is turnover, getting the helmets back is the first step in that project, right? But being able to disinfect them is no problem in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually been incorporated with a lot of companies. When we're talking about safety programs and certain programs you have is turning in your helmet now compared to hard hats. Hard hats were just like, here, you got one, cool, put it on my shelf. Can I have another one? I'm gonna wear it right now in my office and show who I work for. It's now different with helmets, and they are, like I said in the presentation, they are more expensive than hard hats, traditional hard hats. But guys, if you think about it, just, this is not to say this in a demeaning way. This is just saying, like, I spend $80 on my arm box to protect my phone. Now, that's a lot of money just to protect this thing, which is very important. I think my head's a little bit more important than that. So having what we're doing here and replacing things like that, build a program for your guys. Talk with us a little bit more so maybe we can help you understand that message so it comes a little bit clearer, so we can help implement that program for you. Because it's different. This is something completely different than hard hats. So let us help you with that. And I thank y'all guys. It's amazing that we're recognizing this, and because we were talking about this 2 years ago now. Talk about
one thing I could probably say is we wouldn't pay for one head injury and pay for all the hard head.
Oh, yeah.
What, on that note, that same drywall company that had that turnover and they're having their guys sign for it, they have guys on stilts, obviously. They're doing the ceiling grids, everything else. They had a guy that was, and their policy is you're on knee pad, you gotta wear knee pads when you're on stilts. You go to a platform ladder to sit down and take your stilts off. He went over there, as he was going there, he went into the room and electricians had been in there skinning wires and didn't clean up. His stilts went out from underneath him. He hit the wall and then went down. He went to his knees and went down face first to the concrete. He was wearing the helmet with the visor. He had 2 little red spots on his nose and 4 little red spots right here. And that's it. Because when he bent down, the helmet stayed on his head because of that chin strap. Had it been a regular hard hat or something without a chin strap, when he hit the wall, it bounced off. It was gone. Now it's going to the concrete face first with nothing. And that's $120,000 medical bill injury that they've had before. And they went 500 deep on the helmets, and I mean, it was 65, 70 grand for 500 helmets. But it still saved them money from that one injury being prevented.
You mentioned the visors, that was something else I was gonna ask. I noticed several of y'all have those. On those, they're gonna get scratched up just like a normal.
Not as much as you think. Because these are hanging around here, or they put them inside their hard hat at the end of the day, just bouncing around in their truck.
How
They
easy
stay
is to
on.
replace? Those are easily replaceable.
Oh, absolutely.
And cost wise, they're gonna be
They pop on and off real easy.
cost wise.
Yeah, we all have our differences in shields, like ours has a bracket on there, but you replace the actual, polycarbonate buttons and just pop those in and out and keep your bracket. Cask has a little bit different, and, as we're getting into technology and helmets become a thing and safety glasses and shields are big on there, I know as Milwaukee, and I can't speak to them, but they will probably follow suit of, if they're looking to already, we're having certain different types of plastic coatings that are more anti-scratch resistant, or something where, they're able to put more technology into these, because we understand that they'll take their hard hat on, they'll throw it in their truck, right? And that's what we're trying to do. And I know Cask provides a bag, which has been a big thing that we're frustrated with, because we don't have bags, but that's a thing. It's a thing. People are asking, do you have a bag so I can hang this when I get in my truck? And it's like, well, how do I keep this more protected? So you as an investor can say, hey, I want to have the longevity of it. That's a good thing.
And that's a good point in that side of the problem. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah, listen, how does this benefit for like insurance purposes, the policy? So that same drywall company over in Houston, when they bought into this, they went to their insurance company and said, look, we're investing in a better safety product than what is necessary on the job site. Can we get a reduction in our premium? The insurance company said, come back, and they also bought the visors, so that is their safety glasses. I had injury, they said, okay, 8 months from now, let's look at your numbers and see where you're at. And if you have reduced your eye injuries and reduced your minor head injuries and everything else, we will talk about it. Sure enough, they came back 8 months later, they got them to reduce their premium. So in a lot of the different shows that I've been to, the different NSC, all the different stuff, there's actually a lot of insurance companies coming up and talking to Cask in the booth saying, why are our companies going to this? Why are they looking at this? And we get asked about it all the time. Can you lower it because we're buying this? Why do we need to do that? So they've been educating themselves on the helmets and why it's a good investment and why they should lower premiums if a company does buy them.
Yeah.
You see a lot of companies doing that.
On the east, like we're thinking markets there for us, East Coast is more concentrated, right, for all helmets. You're gonna see a lot of those insurance stuff. They're wearing when they're going to this outside. I mean, they're absorbing it. It's part of their culture as well.
You're sending your driving crews to take, driver safety training, and you're submitting that, and you're getting a reduction. Yeah, you can, I think that's a great idea. We'll bring it up and talk to our members that are dealing with our insurances and our mutual funds, stuff, and say, hey, if we've got members that are moving towards this way, and you can show proof that this is an income, it's just as important, in my eyes, as taking that driver safety course, probably more so because it's physically you're doing versus clicking through something on the internet.
Yeah, question in the back.
Yes.
So talking about the face shield, the visors, that kind of thing. I worked Cask for a long time, with the company that I was at, and, you know, one of the big selling points for it was you wear the visor, you don't have to wear the safety glasses. It was during COVID, you know, kind of got past all of the fogging up business or whatever. But as someone who is blind as a bat, like I cannot even hear if I don't have my glasses on. What I found was the visor, the way, I don't know if it's the coating or if it's the structure of it. I was not able to wear the visor over my regular glasses because it messed up my peripheral vision so bad that I couldn't walk straight.
It's the curve. It's the curvature.
It can be, right, there's 3/10 there.
And that's the other thing. Did you have the clear, the smoke, or the mirror?
Clear.
Okay.
The clear ones.
So we've done, you know, also now there's some full face options, and that's where we've been in that, you know, that all of us in test, accessory piece is growing. You're gonna see that get better and better, right? And not knowing how long ago that was for you or anything, I know there's some adjustments there that are happening. I would say.
I mean, it was a great option.
But I mean,
That
you can see I've got my, and these are GA7+ already, but I mean, those fit underneath, they're not a problem. But like I said, the Zenith, so Kask is on their 99th version of their helmet. I mean, they're constantly updating. So the original Zenith, they were a little more snug. You didn't have a lot of movability like this one does. So that could have been the original one. They're constantly progressing all the time to fit that comfort level. So
We can talk about, we got all our stuff there, so we can talk about it out there. It could be a little.
Well, I just wanted to say something about the cost. And, you know, I think for 100 years, we've lived in a world of disposable PPE. $5 safety glasses, you lost them, nobody cared. And this is just a different world, right? It's like, if you look at snow, cycling, even impact sports, football, like good protection is a lot more expensive, whether it's a helmet or the visors or shields, and it has to be taken care of, right? It's a different level than just throwing it on the floor of your truck. It's, you know, so I think there's a piece that we all owe to, you know, educate that, but this is much better, and we invested in it because we're investing in you. And, but yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, you throw a helmet with a visor on it down in the bottom of your truck, it's gonna get scratched.
Yep.
It is.
Well, like, how many of y'all bought those $2 tinted safety glasses, give out to your $1.50 safety glasses, and the guys go through them like candy? I mean, they're getting a new pair every week, but you go out there and you get those Nemesis and give them to them, and they take a little better care of them because they're a little cooler looking. They know they cost a little more, so they're gonna take better care of them. I've seen guys have the same pair of Nemesis for 6-7 months, but those little $2 cheap ones, man, they go through them. I said, once a week, they're getting a new pair. Same thing with this stuff. A lot of the guys are looking at it and they're going, man, this is not just a little cheap helmet. Like you said, this is a really good piece of equipment that I need to take care of, and you're taking more pride in.
I think one of the last points, Alex has had his hand up.
I was just gonna kind of build off Ryan's point, but everyone in the room probably has had a friend or employee that's had a traumatic brain injury. So it's not a matter of, you know, if it's gonna happen, it's when. And so when you look at moderate, you look at your insurance, you look at everything, it's more cost effective in every aspect to go with it ahead of the curve and to kind of protect your employees than, you know, having that accident, getting your insurance premium up, getting your mod rate up, and then trying to bargain with your insurance company, hey, how if you best protect your employees now, you know, it's gonna save you ultimately a lot of money.
Amen.
Anybody have any other questions?
I think everybody in Austin, at least in the industry too much, is pretty used to seeing them, because at first, working for one of the first companies that brought him into the city, it was, you know, are we landing planes today? Go Speed Racer, you know, did you just back to school?
I had the same issue
Yeah.
when I first started wearing the Cask helmet, probably about 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I worked for a distributor and we bought into the Cask helmets and we're going around and selling them. We walked into the job site, the superintendent's trailer, and I was a safety specialist. And I had the salesman with me. We both walked in there wearing our Cask helmets and the guy looked at me, he said, "Where'd y'all park y'all's mopeds?" And my salesman, literally, he took it off his head and he was like, "Oh, I kind of hit it." And I was like, "You know, that's funny, laugh all you want to. When you fall and your hard hat goes flying, you get a concussion and you lay in the hospital, I'll call you when I'm out there fishing in the boat." He said, wait, back that up. What'd you say? And I explained to him the whole chin strap and the reasoning why we're moving. And he's like, "I want more information. Let's look at it." He was laughing us out at first, but once he understood why, then he wasn't laughing anymore. So they can laugh all they want to. Like I said, I'll call them from a boat. I walk off the job and they're still in the hospital.
All right, guys, well, we have gone a little bit over, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you'd like to talk with them individually, we'll go ahead and do that. But I would like to personally thank Cask, Studson, Milwaukee, and Wavecel for being here today, giving us their time.